Hello, and welcome back to Ashley Main Makes, and happy holidays. So today we are talking about my 1940s inspired Christmas dress. Yes, it is a little bit tropical, but it is red and green, and I did wear it to a Christmas party, so that makes it a Christmas dress, right? That's how that works. I am super excited about this dress for several reasons. This has been one of those ones that's been kind of ruminating in the Pinterest board for a really long time and finally came together. It actually came together in a few days, which is a little bit concerning, but I am proud of myself that I managed to get it done such as it was, and I wasn't naked at my party. So there's that. I think this dress is really cool. This is one of those ones where I kind of want to share the planning process with you guys of how we got to here. So there was like a few kind of things and stumbling blocks that happened on the way to this dress. I had got a chunk of this 1940s reproduction rayon satin. It is a Telalinda fabric, but I actually got it as an offcut from Tanya Hughes on Instagram. I'll leave her Instagram down below. But she had made a dress out of this fabric also, and then just had this extra 4-yard chunk that she was selling off. And I snapped it up because A, they'd quit making this pattern, but B, I had also really wanted to try this fabric. This fabric is pretty pricey, but honestly, I think it's worth it after working with it. I'd say this is the easiest rayon I've ever worked with, and it actually has weight to it. It actually feels like almost a medium weight rayon, and this really kind of feels more 1940s. It feels like what these dresses, closer to what these dresses were made out of, because obviously like a lot of what's available now is like rayon challis, and it's very light, and you really can't use it as a full dress unless it's like lined or something like that. So it was very exciting to work with this fabric. I really do want to purchase some more from them as a little treat yourself in a little bit. She has this beautiful pistachio one that I might have to have, floral, and I love it. She also does a few other eras too, and a couple of different substrates. I'll leave it down below. But anyway, have this chunk of fabric. I really want to make a 1940s dress. On Pinterest, I am building this board of all these kind of different 1940s inspiration. You know, with the satin kind of finish, I do want it to be a bit more dressed up, but this also works well because I only have 4 yards, which probably for some people sounds like a lot, but for me as a plus size person, 4 yards is not the minimum that you can get away with, but minimum probably for a thing with actual sleeves on it. I've got all these thoughts going on. And then I go and look at my other fashion board. And actually on my other fashion board, there was kind of all these other ones that I had saved from, I guess you'd call them vintage reproduction brands or vintage inspired brands, you know, like Son de Fleur and Cult Gaia. And I had pinned a bunch of different things. And I realized a lot of them had this same shape to them. Granted, a few of them were a bit fuller, like they either had a fuller skirt or fuller sleeves or that sort of thing, you know, kind of leaning into the more cottagecore of it all. But, you know, definitely picking up that either late 30s into the 40s kind of inspiration in the shapes of these. So I really kind of felt good about it and kind of excited about it. So I'd had this kind of ruminating on the board for a while. But obviously I had a few stumbling blocks. I was nervous to cut into this precious fabric or make sure I was making the right thing out of it. And then the other part was like, what pattern am I going to use to create this style? And so I saw a few patterns kicking around. None of them were in plus size. And then there was this style arc pattern. So I put this style arc pattern on the board and was like, I don't know. We'll see if we can find anything better. You know, sometimes that's how the world works. Like someone comes out with a new pattern finally, since there's kind of a vintage trend. I'm going to call it a vintage trend happening of this pattern. So I kind of assumed someone would eventually come out with a pattern for this dress, and that just kind of never happened. So it kind of just sat there on my Pinterest board for a while. So then after that, in September, I saw that the Curvy Coven _UK, I'll leave their Instagram down below, but it's basically a collective of a whole bunch of plus size sewists on Instagram. They picked this pattern as their pattern of the month for September. And so a bunch of them made this dress, like plus size gals, all different kind of different shapes and sizes of plus size gals made this dress and had a lot of success with it. So that was really kind of heartening. You're like, this is what the internet is meant for, is to actually, you know, kind of share and connect with community and do all those wonderful things that the internet was designed to do. But anyway, so I saw all these gals, they looked wonderful, and a lot of them said they didn't have any issues with this pattern, that it was really great. If you've been around the sewing community for a while, you'll know that Style Arc is kind of one of the oldest indies that's existed for plus size, but they are notorious for having basically no instructions, and they're a B cup. So there was a couple of things there that I was like, so it was good to see it on some other people. So, and actually it turned out awesome. You'll see in my mock-up that there was very little fussing around with this one, which thank God, because I was running so far behind when I finally did decide that, yep, this was the project I was doing. So all that being said, saw the lovely ladies, got the Style Arc pattern printed finally. I did decide to make a couple of tweaks to it for this version because I really wanted to try and keep it as kind of 40s inspired as I could. A lot of the more modern ones have the buttons down the front like the Style Arc pattern is showing. For mine, I opted to omit that just because none of the 1940s patterns I don't think had that detail. Most of them had like a smooth front and a smooth skirt. I think a lot of that has to do with like how much fabric you have, which in my case turned out well because I didn't really actually have the fabric to do the button folds and all that. So that worked out well. But yeah, so we did do that. And I think probably some of you are asking why I didn't use a real 1940s pattern and grade it up similarly as I did to the walkaway dress. And the thing was, that's just a lot. And I really couldn't find any patterns even remotely close to my size. So it would have been a whole exercise. You know, that took me weeks to do that walkaway dress originally. And the beautiful thing about this is it already had an elastic in the back. Like, it's got those modern details that, you know, if you've been watching my channel at all for a while, I put elastic in the back of everything. So the fact it already had that in the back already done for me, essentially like my Rita's, was fantastic. And then it's got the elastic cuffs on it. And I mean, you could always do a real cuff if you wanted, but it's 3/4 length and it's got elastic cuffs. Like, it kind of hit those modern details that I kind of wanted as well, where I'm actually going to wear the thing. So that was a lot. So that's a lot to get into, but yeah. And then we speed sewed the damn thing. So let's get into said speed sewing, and you're going to see this roller coaster of a project. All right, so we appear to be welcoming my new furry friend to the video. This is Maple. She is my new rescue kitten, and she is absolutely adorable, but she was driving me absolutely nuts as I was trying to put this pattern together. She kept going on the table, and I think at some point I actually knocked the camera, and that's why the camera angle is terrible in this, so my apologies. But I am basically doing a bit of a cheater full bust adjustment. So I just split it straight down and added my regular full bust adjustment amount, which is 2.5 inches from any darts or doing anything like that. Like, you'd end up spinning them back to the top and bottom anyway to go into more gathers. So this worked out just fine. The main thing I had to guess with was how much length to add. Originally I was adding 1.75, but that looked like a bit much to me. So I ended up going with 1.5 inches, which looked about right compared to other full bust adjustments I've done in the past. So that was a good guess. You can kind of see at the bottom there the way I kind of curved it off. So again, that was a little bit of guesswork. I didn't even get the French curve out there. I was just trying to figure out something that looked about right. I'm also going to be doing a little bit of a cheater full belly adjustment as well. I'm adding about another 3 inches into the waistband as well. So we're adding 5 to the bust and 3 to the waist in the front. And that ended up working out perfectly. I think I've kind of come to that conclusion that that's something I need as compared to like a D-cup pattern. I often find when I do a full bust adjustment from a D-cup pattern that amount of inches seems about right. So that was my guess here, and it ended up turning out perfectly. And as you can see, our furry friend keeps poking in and out over and over again. This is not helping. You're not supposed to be on the table. All right, so am I good or am I good? This is the mock-up. So we are back in the hallway with the mock-up. And honestly, I think this is pretty much perfect the way it is. I did go ahead and put in the sleeve. I didn't do the gathers and the puff the best, but actually I think the arm side is sitting basically perfect as well. You can kind of see on this side actually where the seam is. So I actually think that's pretty great. As far as that bust adjustment goes, that's where I'm like, damn, I'm good, because I totally guessed at how much length I needed to add to this. And it worked out basically perfect. How can you tell? I've been doing full bust adjustments for absolute eons at this point. So yeah, if you want to know like more in detail and actually like accurately how to do a full bust adjustment, I do have a video on that only from a couple videos ago, which actually I spent a lot of time on and I think is really good. So if you need to learn how to do a proper full bust adjustment, but just me adding the extra inches and then guessing at the length. So I added 2.5 to the bust, and then I added 1.5 to the length. So basically 2.5 this way, 1.5 this way. I added 1.5 to the waistband as well, to the front waistband. And I actually think that worked out pretty much perfect as well. You can see on the side where that seam is hitting, and it's pretty great. Actually, the seam on this skirt is a little forward, but so it's throwing it off. But yeah, I'm gonna move ahead with this. This is actually the night before I'm supposed to be wearing this dress, so this is the crunchiest I've ever been on making a dress. After this, I'm gonna slow down for a bit. I am tired of doing everything on a deadline, so we're gonna have some chill sewing time over the break. But this one actually has real world consequences because the Christmas party is tomorrow night. So I'm gonna do my best. It is currently Friday night, and here's the mock-up. So I'm hoping I will get the dress cut out tonight. We'll see if we get as far as serging all the bits that need to be serged on the inside, because it's rayon. And even though we're in a time crunch, I'm still not doing that to myself. So that's happening. And then, so we're gonna go from there. We're gonna really hope we get the dress done. It's pretty easy construction wise, other than the shearing. And there's honestly, if that goes poorly for whatever reason, what I did for this mock-up actually was use some of this very soft type elastic, and I just zigzagged across it for the mock-up because I certainly wasn't resetting my entire sewing machine when I'm on a bit of a crunch like this. But yeah, I'm honestly really impressed with myself. Like, look at that. I mean, obviously this poofs a little bit, especially in this cotton. This is like a shirting weight cotton, but I think in the rayon, this is gonna drape really beautifully, and I'm really excited. So, you know, this is where you go, okay, I am getting better at sewing. I am getting better at sewing, and it's making me feel pretty good about it. So yeah, so I'm gonna move right into fabric. It's a little scary. I'm gonna try and not rush too fast because I really don't want to wreck this fabric. It's really beautiful fabric that I've been hanging on to for a while. And yeah, also this, you know, you can just see it actually isn't like revealing really. I mean, I might wear a little bit more of a like bra, but yeah, it's really not that bad. It's not that revealing actually. You know, worst case scenario, I'll put a popper there, but actually I like, again, not as bad as I thought this was going to be. So, and yeah, I think the length's really good. One thing about the length though too is I'm probably going to use the skirt pocket pattern to do the pockets in the dress, just because actually this sits where the skirt waistband sits, because it's a little bit of a longer waistband because of this extra piece. So I'm just going to use the skirt pattern piece. So I think that's going to work out great. So yes, jumping, cutting out right now. So let's go. All right, so I thought I would show you a good glamour shot here of this beautiful fabric. I'm hoping this will kind of show you the difference between this and something like a rayon challis with how much drape it does have. And then I'm going to go through and mark off my pattern pieces. These style arc patterns actually only have just like a little line as the notch mark, so you got to be really careful and go through and make sure you catch them all. I actually ended up highlighting all of mine in some bright colors so that I could make sure I caught them all when I went to cut them out. And I'm just showing you some cutting with my electric scissors in real time. I had a lot of questions about this, and it is really fast. I'm going actually really slow here just because this is precious fabric relative to how fast I would normally go, and it's rayon and it's wiggly. And this is the Ashley Main Makes perfect pocket pattern as compared to the terrible pocket that this style arc pattern comes with. Clearly, that's going out the window, and we're going with that one. So if you'd like to get yourself a nice pocket for this dress or any other dresses that don't have decent pockets, I'll leave it in the link up above and a pinned comment down below, and eventually I'll quit mentioning it, but today is not that day. And we are moving on to actually sewing up the yoke. Now, I'm going to be showing this in quite a bit of detail just because what they're asking you to do is actually the burrito method. So, and it's called the burrito method because you roll everything, as you can see what I'm doing here. And the goal is to match up your 2 back yokes. For the burrito method, it usually has you cut 2 of the back yoke pieces, and then you're going to line them up right side to right side. And in this case, it's actually even a little bit more complicated because I'm going around the whole back neckline as well as the top of both shoulders. So it was a little bit weird, but I got it figured out because they don't give you any other actual like facings or bias or anything like that to finish off that back neckline. So this is kind of what needs to happen. And you can kind of see all along where I sewed there. They don't actually include any of this in the instructions, so this is kind of why I'm telling you. And then I flipped it out just to check to make sure that, sanity check to make sure it worked. And then I'm trimming off all the excess so that those corners bits can lay a little bit more flat. And then I'm going ahead and serging, which is a little bit different than normal. I'm going to be serging the entire sides of the bodice now that I'm done that finished back facing, all along the skirt pieces as well. So there wasn't that much to be serged actually. And then I'm going to go ahead and put in my sleeves right away. You can see that little bit of sleeve puff. And this is this package of vintage rayon hem tape I had. I haven't been able to find any more of it, and this ended up being a bit of a fail just because it ended up ripping away from the bias binding just because it was so thin along the package, the one package that I use. So if you have any recommendations for modern rayon binding, I'd love to hear it. And here I'm checking in with you from the hallway mirror again, and I'm really sad that I lost all the sound from this footage. But this is basically how I wore the dress to the Christmas party, and it's pretty good. Basically what happened is I ended up finishing the rest of the dress off camera because I just needed to get done, but I did end up omitting the pockets and just doing the hem as fast as I could. You can also see that I left the elastic off of the sleeves because I just simply ran out of time. But actually, I really love the look of it on this dress. It does definitely make it more 70s looking, I think, to a certain extent than 40s looking. But I do really kind of like the almost bell sleeves on this dress, just with the weight of this rayon. So I kind of decided to leave it. I just didn't end up finishing off the channel. I just, you know, closed off the last couple inches that I'd left for putting the elastic in and called it a day. The other thing that was the issue with this dress was it was a little bit loose in the waist, as you can kind of see where I'm pointing to right now. So I am going to redo the elastic in the back, and it's such small, like the width just isn't that large in that waistline. So I think I'm just going to use regular elastic as a way of tightening this up and making this smooth. But yeah, overall, not bad. I did really miss having pockets in a dress. I felt like I was trying to put my phone somewhere all night just because I'm so used to it now. So from here, we are going to move on to fixing it. And I feel like we don't talk about this enough, but I am going to actually go through and fix this because I do really love this dress and I want to wear it again. And I want to wear it for like Christmas Day and going to like family Christmas things. So we're going to go ahead and do that. So here we are looking at that elastic. So I'm looking at the width of the back waistband and the width of the elastic and figuring out my seam allowances and going, yep, that's gonna work. So it's an 1.5 inch elastic. I picked a little bit of a softer one. I wish I would have picked an even softer one, to be honest. And then I'm using my lint roller, actually, to get rid of all the extra threads of unpicking all my seams. This is a great trick. I love this. And then you'll just go through and iron it, and it's like it never happened. So first of all, I'm going to sew right side to right side, but then I'm also going to put in an extra waistband. So I actually just ended up cutting 2 new back waistbands because this does leave little scars on it when you sew through it, this fabric, a little bit. Especially where all that shearing was, so I'm just going to go ahead and do that here. And then I'm going to iron it flat, and then I'm just going to baste it in place so that I have a channel. I went just shy of the 5/8 that I was using, so that I can put in the elastic. And then we're going to thread it in same as normal. I'm going to use the safety pin trick. So I grabbed a really large safety pin out of my kit, and I'm just kind of pushing it through that channel. The safety pin basically just gives you something hard to hold on to be able to push it through. So just doing all that, gathering it up. You know, this fabric is just so lovely to look at, even in just reviewing the footage back, it's kind of nice. So, and I'm just pulling the safety pin out the other end. And then what I'm going to do is just kind of match those up so that there's a little elastic sticking out, but not too much. And I'm going to sew across one end. Sewing across one end. And I'm going to do a little bit of back and forth here just to make sure it's really secure in place. And then I'm just going to pull it a few times like this. And this kind of gathers the fabric up on the elastic just kind of automatically, which is great. And I'm going to make sure that it gathers so that if I pull it flat, the elastic still has room. So, because you don't want it too tight. I think I even got it a little tight here, to be honest, but it does make it a lot more secure and it does sit a lot smoother. So it did do what I wanted it to do. And then just doing that same back stitching across the other end and cutting off the excess elastic. And now what are we doing? Oh, I'm sewing in the pockets. So I unpicked far enough down along the side of the skirt to be able to sew in the pockets. And then I am just understitching like I'm supposed to all along that. So about 1/8 of an inch again across away from the pocket. Made sure to iron everything flat, and then I'm sewing the skirt onto the bodice. It was a little tricky around the back here, which I'm showing you where the elastic was, so I kind of had to pin it and then stretch it flat as I was sewing, which was a bit of a struggle. But here's the final result. I think it looks wonderful, and I don't think you really notice it when it's on at all that it's elastic in the back. So overall, I am actually really happy with this dress, and I'm really proud of myself that I actually went in and did make those couple of tweaks that makes it a lot more wearable for me. So I think that's really great. I do think I do have to go back in and fix that hem, especially now seeing this footage back. That rayon seam binding is just causing some weird issues even with me ironing it. So I think that's got to go, and I've got to baby hem it or something. So that's a little bit disappointing. Let me know if it's just because it's old or whatever, or if you've got some new recommendations for rayon binding like that. But other than that, I think this dress is really great. I did get a lot of compliments on it at the party, and I do think it was very Christmassy, although I think outside of the context of red and green, I do think I could wear this dress in other seasons. I think I could get away with wearing it in the summertime and you'd have no idea that I made it as a Christmas dress. Even I'm styling it here with my my tiki shoes and my rattan purse, sort of very tropical vibes as it is. So I think that's really great too. I think this red doesn't look quite as good on me as it does on Tanya. I honestly thought it was a little bit lighter than it is for some reason, but it is a lot of fun, and I'm glad I got the chance to work with this fabric and really test it out and see if I liked it, because it's wonderful. There definitely will be more in my future, even of this dress. I think I might need need to make this pattern again, so let me know if you'd like to see that, if you'd like to see some variations on this dress. I might even add the elastic into the cuffs on the next one. Let me know what you think of that. I think in this fabric it looks really nice that I left it loose actually, but like I say, I might try it again in something else. And otherwise, let me know your thoughts and do hit that subscribe button. I hate to ask, but I am almost at 5,000 subscribers, and that was my personal goal by the end of the year. I don't know if I'll quite make it, but I would really love if you guys would double check that you are subscribed. And maybe hit that like button while you're down there, because it is more of a vanity metric for me than anything else. So I'd really appreciate that. Let me know what you guys are doing for the holidays and what you guys wore. And I will see you on the next one. Bye, guys!